Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Morning.
Wait a minute or two, and then we will start class. This is one of the hardest classes to teach from Zoom because of the way windows pop up. So we'll do a lot more concept than I typically do. I usually do a lot more example with the MLS, but we'll try. We'll see what we can get done. But like I said, it'll be much more heavily concept than it is usually in person. So you can always refer to also my CMA class that's recorded and online where I do actually have MLS sample.
I think we're losing you, Kristen. You're frozen. Is it just me?
Yeah, no, she's
Give me a
frozen.
second.
Yeah.
Melissa, are you connected to Wi-Fi?
Me? Yeah.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's going on.
I can hear you, but it's frozen. Your picture's frozen.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
There we go.
Better?
That's better.
Ye-
Okay.
There you are.
Um,
Yeah.
Okay, great. So my internet connections. So what I was saying is that typically I use a lot of MLS example in this class, but it's very difficult with screen sharing the way that the windows pop up. So I'll do my best, but we'll talk mostly about concept first, and then we'll see what we can do with the screen share and Zoom. But you can always go to my YouTube channel and look at the CMA class there, and you'll see the actual examples using the MLS. So let's first talk about what a CMA is used for, right? CMA stands for Comparative Market Analysis, and it is probably one of the most powerful informational tools and influential tools you'll use with your clients. Wow, Alyssa, your hair looks so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's day 3. I need a shampoo.
Well, it doesn't look like it. So I wish my day 3 hair looked like that.
Not a dry shampoo.
Sorry, my family's visiting. Emo, come here. Come here. My family's visiting, so my dog's gonna go nuts if they walk anywhere in the house. All right, so comparative market analysis, most powerful informational and influential tool you'll typically use both with buyers and sellers. So anytime you are talking to someone about potentially listing their home, one of the first and most important questions for them that they're gonna have is, what do you think my home is worth, right? And so there's a lot of factors that go into making that estimation for them. And it's very difficult to do without actually seeing the home. So we'll talk about what you can do ahead of seeing the home and how at least I like to manage sort of my range. And I modify my range once I'm actually in the property and get to see it. With buyers, you're going to pull a comparative market analysis prior to making an offer. This is so that A, you can make sure your buyers are not overpaying. B, you can make sure that you're not submitting an offer that's so far under market value you might not get a counter offer. And C is to sway those buyers who are like, oh, you know, I want to offer $600,000 on $1 million property. So let's talk about what you need to do for a CMA. With the buyer, it's a little easier because typically you've seen the property. You know what it looks like, you know the neighborhood because you've been there. With the listing, it's a little more difficult. So one of the very first things you're going to do before you do a CMA is you're going to actually pull up Google Maps. Okay. I'm going to do that now and try to screen share it with you. Give me just a second. Okay. All right. Does anyone have a property in mind, not in a far off area, that they would like to use, we can use as a subject property? Actually, you know what? No, never mind. I'm taking that back. There's an example I really like when I use Google Maps. So the example I really like to use is 2708 Greenfield Avenue. It's a listing I sold a couple of years ago. And the reason I love to use this property as an example when I'm looking at Google Maps, which is typically the first stage, and you guys can see the screen, right?
Yes.
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 Yeah. You see 2708. Okay. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And what is very important about my internet connection's unstable again. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so the reason I love this property as an example is because it has very strong geographical borders. Okay, so one of the most influential considerations in comparative market analysis is location, right? It's why a property in Beverly Hills costs more than a property in, Van Nuys, right? So location, 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 but not just general area. It's also proximity to other things. So 2708 Greenfield happens to be bordered by Westwood, Exposition, which also has the metro line. You see this little icon here? The 10 freeway and the 405. So I don't want anything outside of this pocket for comps, and that's going to severely limit my ability to pull comps. But really, property outside of these geographical barriers are not going to be relevant to the value of 2708 Greenfield. On top of that, 2708 Greenfield is literally a block in from the 10 freeway. Okay. So not only am I only going to take comps in this pocket, if I'm using any comps further out in the northern direction, especially the northeastern direction, I'm going to give them a little bit more weight in their value. Okay. There's a few reasons. People don't want to be close to the freeway because and B, pollution. And some buyers are more savvy than others. There are actually studies, like they don't allow daycares and schools to be built within a certain amount of feet of freeways. And there's maps for this freeway pollution, and it goes like red, orange, yellow, green. Okay. You know this as real estate, you should know this. And so one of the main factors when I talked to these sellers was, well, you're so close to the freeway. It was a great house. But I just wanted you guys to see, like, if you don't know an area, like it was very easy for me to look at this map and make conditions for myself about what would be a valid comp and what would be a major consideration in pricing. But I didn't just stop there. I drove over there. Okay. So if you have a potential listing, unless for some reason you can't push your listing appointment into a time where you can be absolutely prepared, you need to get in the car. You need to drive over there. You need to, if you're not familiar with the area, you need to talk to agents who are. Call listing agents who have active listed properties or properties that have recently sold there. You're going to do that anyways, because when you pull comps, if there are any anomalies, things that sold really high or really low based on what you're seeing, you're going to want to know why. There's probably extenuating circumstances, and you're going to need to know about those things so you can educate your potential sellers at the time you make a pricing recommendation. Okay, so first thing we do, we look at geographical barriers, so we know that we are only looking at comps in a section of the MLS that is actually relevant to our subject property, buyer or seller. Okay. The next thing we need to think about is the actual home, right? So what are the major factors that affect value in a home? Well, condition, but on a sell, we're not really going to know what that is yet, right? Square footage. Okay. Lot size, particularly if it's usable flat outdoor space, lawns. Okay. Some other important considerations, parking. Is there a garage? Is there a pool? A lot of the other stuff is conditional, but there are some X factors. Is there a school nearby? Is it walking distance to trendy shops and restaurants? View is a huge one. So let's pretend for a second that this little pocket had hilly areas. And even this close to the freeway, this does happen in Bel Air, by the way, guys. It'll be close to the freeway, but it'll have a phenomenal view. So would it be worth more than something over here that's further away than the freeway that doesn't have a view? Yeah, it would. So we have to take all of these things into consideration, and that's why driving by the property and the area is so important. I like to do my little, my secret missions. I drive over and I totally scope out the neighborhood, and I try to be as inconspicuous as possible. I wear a little hat, I wear a little hoodie, I'm totally undercover. I don't want those sellers to see me spying. but
I like your little incognito
if
outfit.
you're not spying, you're probably not in the area. And thank you. Yeah, sunglasses and hat. My ex used to say, oh, you think you're a movie star or something. I'm like, no, my eyes are just sensitive. So yeah, totally do the recon. What else? So condition is huge, 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 right? New construction home is not going to be of the same value as your subject property that, is 30 years old, even if it's been remodeled, but especially if it hasn't been remodeled. The next thing we're going to check is property records. Okay. And I'll tell you why this is important. So, I'm going to try to screen share again. Hold on. Can you guys see my MLS screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So to go to property records, you go up to search and public records. And I like one of these much more than the other, and I can never remember which one it is. So I'm hoping it's the right one. And it is. Do you guys see this new pop-up, or do I need to do something with my share?
We don't see the new pop-up.
Don't see. Yeah.
Oh, never mind. I take it back.
Stop share, screen share.
Hey, Kristen,
Yes.
you might have better luck. I don't know if you just share the desktop rather than like the actual tab itself.
Let me see. Stop share,
Should be like the first option.
screen share, basic, advanced.
It's under basic, it should be like desktop one.
No, I don't have that. I have screen, whiteboard, iPhone, iPad, realist, and no, just my stuff, just my windows.
What about the one that it's currently
Just
on?
select a window or application you want to share. What's that?
Top left,
Yeah? Nothing there.
next to whiteboard. Do you see that one?
Yeah, I see whiteboard.
And then to the left of that, it doesn't say like desktop.
No, it's a screen and it shows
Oh,
me.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's it. And so if that's highlighted, just hit share.
Okay. So can you guys now see this with the map and quick search?
Yes.
Loaded. Yes.
Yes.
Hey, thank you, Blake. Love Blake.
That's what I'm here for.
Yes. Well, you are my hero. Okay, so this is property records. And so let's just use the same property just to make it easy. 2708 Greenfield. You guys can actually see as I type in all of that. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So what's important about this is I want to confirm with either my actual own eyes, because I'm doing this for a buyer sale. And I've gone in and seen the property. I want to verify that it is actually 4 bedrooms, 1655 square feet, 2 baths. All right. This one, actually, you see how it says MLS square footage? This is pulling it from my last listing, but that is not what was on property records. On property records, we have, oh, look, bedrooms. On tax records, 3, MLS 4. Look,
Why would that
building
be
square
so
footage,
different?
Well, it's because they did a permitted enclosure of a a patio, a back patio, and it was permitted. So it's allowed to be advertised as square footage, but property records hadn't updated it. That happens all the time. So when
what
I
do you,
talked,
yeah, what would you do? What would you do best to view, like, you know, when you're doing this? Sorry to interrupt you.
that's fine. I just asked my seller, I'm like, hey seller, property records shows that you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that's 1424 square feet. That sounds a little tight to me. Is that correct? And they're like, oh no, we actually have 4 bedrooms. That was separated and permitted before we bought it. And they were all super tiny bedrooms. They actually literally used one as a closet. But we actually have more square footage because of this enclosed patio that we did with permit. So what I did was I went to ladbs.org and I checked to see that there was a permit there. Even if you go there and you check it and you don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not permitted. It could just have been older and permitted at a time before they had all the records online. So there are permit specialists you can contact for this. But what I did to legally be able to advertise this 1,655 square feet is I hired a floor plan drawing company and I had them give me the square footage. You have to pay for that and all of it, but it's necessary. And that was really important to me because if we didn't advertise the full square footage, I wasn't going to get the price that we needed. Same thing with the bedrooms. But if I had gone into that listing appointment with misinformation by not asking simple questions from my seller, knowing that, I would have come in with a value probably 100,000 plus less than what I actually thought it was. Just make sure, take time, pull property records, and just do a little quick check-in with the seller. It's happened to me before where someone has done extensive addition work and it was all permitted, and they actually ended up having like twice as many bedrooms and like 3,000 more square feet than property records told me. I would have looked like an idiot showing up to that listing appointment if I had not asked. Even if everything looks like it checks out, just ask. It's that simple. Okay. So I'm looking at, I'm pulling up Google Maps. I'm driving the neighborhood. I'm pulling up property records. I'm verifying information. So the next step is actually go in and pull comps. And this is not an exact science at all. And guys, sometimes this is as easy as like a 5-minute process. And sometimes this is like a 2-day process. Lauren, Alyssa, feel free to jump in here. There are also off-market sales that aren't going to be in the MLS that your title reps can help give you information on. They won't have photos, but you always want to check also for off-market sales because most likely your clients are going to know about those, even though we don't have access to them in the MLS. Alyssa, Lauren, is that something you can provide?
Two things real quick, guys. First of all, on the square footage issue, you probably want to check our online system, either the app or the website, My First Am, because if the permitting was semi-recent, we would probably reflect it before the MLS does, because we update from the assessor more than the MLS does. So, you know, they probably update, I don't know, maybe every quarter, and we're updating, you know, maybe monthly. So,
and that's great, but I prefer you guys went to ladbs.org and did it yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's a square footage. It may be, listen, you may find A on the MLS and B on our site. And so find B on our site, then you can run with it. And as far as the comps go, we are not MLS driven. So we just simply go by recorded documents. So if a document records a full value transfer, meaning they paid the doc stamps, it is a legit sale, we have it. All right. We're about 14 days, 20 days now, every title company about 14, 20 days behind on the recorded documents. So we just have to wait for that deed to show up. But once that deed shows up, on market, off market, doesn't matter. It's a deed showing a sale. We can figure out the sale price.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, I don't typically go for those off-market sales though, unless I am having difficulty comping out a property, but you guys need to know that happens way more often than you'd like it to. And title is going to be your super valuable resource for those off-market sales. Otherwise you're going to know nothing about them. And like I said, your client's going to. And when you go in and you meet with a seller and they know about a sale that you don't know about that affects the value of their home, you're losing credibility and trust with them. So, like I said, you won't have photos. All you'll have is price and specs, but those prices and specs are relevant. All right, so then you're going to go into the MLS and you're going to do an actual search. So give me a second here. You guys can see the regular home screen on the MLS now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so you're gonna go to search, listing. And guys, by the way, we'll talk about condos in a minute. Condos can be much easier or much harder to comp out, depending upon the size of the building and how many recent sales there have been in it. Okay, so we're gonna go to single family. And I'm gonna show you how I like to do my searches. Because remember, I told you one of the most important things in comps is geographical barriers and location. So my subject property, I type in the address up here. This is a very unorthodox way of like doing your map search for your comps, but I think it saves you a lot of time. Okay, so it's going to show me where it's at. And I'm going to zoom in on it. And I'm like, oh, here are my big geographical borders: Exposition, Westwood, the freeways. So I'm going to pull this draw tool out, and I'm going to pick out the polygon one, the one that's shaped like a house. I'm actually going to X out of this, the house. And I'm going to draw within those geographical barriers. Okay. I never, ever want to see you guys using that circular bullseye tool, ever. If you are using that circular radius tool for your comps, you are probably including and excluding comps that might be very relevant to your comparative market analysis. Okay, so the next thing I come over here to do is, although you will, especially if you're going into a listing appointment, want to look at actives and active under contracts, I'd like you to put those into a separate sort of report to go over with your sellers. With your buyers, you can include them. But at the same time, the only comps that have any weight, okay, I'm gonna repeat that. The only comps that have any weight are sold comps. Okay, so I come up here, I select sold. Come here, baby girl, come here. Let's sit with mom. Say hi. Say hi. I'm super loud and I'm sorry, class.
Oh.
Okay, so the only comps that have any weight are solds. And as soon as you select sold, this date box is going to pop up here. So you're going to click on it. Okay. I like to start with the last 6 months. I will go back further if I need to, because I don't have enough subject property. I will go shorter because it's going to be more relevant if I have too many. I get to be pickier if I have too many. Something tells me, because this geographic area is so small, that I'm probably going to have to go back further, but that's just my inclination. Okay, so I'm going to hit apply. And look, I have 5 sales in the last 6 months in this pocket. All right, and none of them are as close to the freeway as mine. I guess these 2 are, but I don't know anything about them yet. I haven't put in square footage. I haven't put in bed bath count. In all honesty, in hindsight, knowing that my 4 bedrooms are really tiny, my bedroom count doesn't mean as much to me as if they were all like full bedrooms. But that's just a preference, and I only know that now because, you know, I saw the property. So I'm going to start with square footage. So it was 1655. So I'm going to try with 1350 to 1800 because my subject property is 1655. Okay, look, now I only have 1. It's not nearly as close to the freeway. I'm going to take a look at it. So just so you know, I'll tell you a little bit about 27808 Greenfield. It was updated like 15 years ago. So it was nice, but it wasn't new, right? It wasn't all the current trends. It was tight. It was a very quaint traditional house. They kept it well. It was furnished well. It was immaculate. The yard was super nice. So I had ideal conditions, even with, you know, a little bit of an outdated home. So we're going to pull this one up and take a look. Obviously, one comp is not going to work for us anyways, right? It's just not. Okay, so I have a traditional style home, 3-bed, 2-bath, and remember mine's 4, but I'm okay with that because I'm more concerned with the square footage because those bedrooms, like one was literally made into a closet. And I don't have much to work with. So I'm gonna look at the photos. Okay, so this needs total updating. Maybe not. Some of these rooms are cute. Oh, love this professional photography, huh, guys? Love it. Great job, listing agent. I hope it's not someone in our office that I'm offending. Okay, so, you know, could be a little cuter. Certainly wasn't staged or furnished well. Wow, that kitchen is bad. Very bad. So I'm gonna say this is in worse condition than my subject property is. Oh, but the yard is nice. Don't know what that is. I would go into agent detail. We're not going to do that though. We're just going to, like I said, conceptually talk about this. But for me, one comp is not going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to go back to solds and I'm actually going to take it a year out. So I click last year, I hit apply. I didn't get any more sales, guys. Okay, so that's going to happen sometimes. Like I said, not an exact science. And the reason for that is because this pocket with these geographical barriers that's going to affect value is so tight. So we're going to pretend like there were more, okay? We're going to pretend like there were more. We're going to pretend like our typical comp was like this. Okay, so it's not as updated, but it is similar in style. It's a little further from the freeway. So I'm actually going to say, you know, maybe the further from the freeway, even though it's not as updated as our subject property, is kind of going to even things out a little bit, maybe. So I'm going to say my property is probably pretty close to this sales price. Okay. We're just going to pretend like there were a bunch there. Remember, not an exact science. You're going to have to use a lot of the way you feel about things. So you're going to have to think like a real estate agent. You're going to have to use all of your specs and all of the information technology that you have available to you. And then you're going to have to pretend to be a buyer. You're going to see how, let yourself emotionally respond to what you're seeing. Okay? Because that does factor 100% into price. Stop. That's all subjective. And we're all going to have a slightly different opinion about it. But typically, something that's very appealing to you is going to be very appealing to a buyer. And that is it's going to be a little X factor in evaluation of value. All right. The other thing you have to think about is what's something people will really, really pay for? Good schools.
So wait, can I ask you a quick question really quick? Sorry. You know, earlier you said it's definitely more important to go based on the square footage size. I mean, obviously this property happens to be exactly what yours was, right? 16 something. But you said it's more important to go on the square footage than the exact number of bedrooms of both.
No, if they were 2 bedroom sizes, it would be very important to me that the bedrooms were the same. But because mine had 4 super tiny bedrooms, I'm willing to say that, you know, maybe that 4th bedroom is not quite as valuable as it typically would be.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
A lot of like,
it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying.
You have to use a lot of personal judgment on it. This is not an exact science. That's why we give a range. We don't give one value. And like I said, you're going to want to look at like all of these listings. You're going to want to see how many days they were on the market. What prices did they start at, right? Because you can have a comp that's very similar that sold at, you know, what you think is kind of a low price, and maybe it's a great comp. Well, it might have sat on the market for half a year because the sellers started at a price that was way too high. And so maybe the true value of that home is slightly higher than it sold for. but because of the way it was marketed and presented, it languished and it actually sold for a lower price. Or maybe the buyers went into inspections, found major problems, and there was a major reduction to the purchase price. So like I said, any anomalies, you're gonna actually pick up the phone and call the listing agent and find out why. Okay, again, not an exact science. First, we're using our criteria, our information, and then we're using, right, our qualitative responses to things. And you're gonna get better at this the longer you do this. And like I said, try to think like a buyer and not a real estate agent. And don't think like a personal buyer, do I like this? Try to think like, is this appealing to people, right? There's a lot of music I don't personally like, but I can appreciate the complexity of or the beauty of it. So really keep that in mind as well. But at the same time, something that is highly stylized also is going to exclude some buyers from the market, okay? So highly stylized homes, right? They don't appeal to as many people. So that's gonna have downward pressure. Then, like I said, there's external factors. Is there a great school district? People will pay more for a home where their children can go to a great school, great public school. Okay. What else? Check zoning. Okay, so like I went on a listing appointment in Brentwood the other day, and the comps were all over the place. So I had to see it before I'd even tell the guy what I thought his home was worth. But his home was worth even slightly more than I would have assumed. Why? Because it was zoned for horse property and had access to horse trails. Okay, so that's special in Los Angeles, right? May not be as helpful to him in this market now where high-end property is moving a little slower, but it does add a little bit of value. And this is something I wouldn't have even known if I hadn't looked at the zoning. And where can we find zoning? Many places, but the most accurate place to find zoning is on ZIMAS. ZIMAS. Okay. All right. I mean, I think we've talked conceptually about the things that can affect value the most. I told you we need to provide a range. If I thought my subject property was worth about 1.5, what kind of range should I come in with when the seller's asking me, what do you think my home is worth? And second question, what do you think I should list it at? Yeah, any ideas?
Would you repeat your question?
Yeah. If from my assessment of, let's say I had 12 comps and I determined that I thought the value was probably around 1.5 for the subject listing property that I was at the appointment for. If the seller asked me what I thought their home was worth and what they should list it for, two very different questions, keying you into that. What do you think a reasonable response from me would be?
Your honest answer, what you honestly thought.
Yeah, but what's a good range so I'm not screwing myself?
I would also
200,000 under and
motivation.
200,000 over.
15% plus or minus.
50%? No.
15.
200,000, maybe if it was a little bit higher priced. I generally don't want to go more than 10% up or down. But I also don't want to go too high. I would love to pleasantly surprise my sellers with a better price. But I can also shoot myself in the foot by giving them too high of a range because then they absolutely want to list at that high end range. So what I'll stop and do is say, well, I think we can sell your home. And in this case, I'd probably say between 1.4 and 1.550 would be my best guess. If you give too big of a range, I think you're not giving enough information. So I would probably say 1.4 to 1.550. And I would also launch into the conversation. There are things that we can do to try to get you higher, closer to that higher number. The most important being is actually your list price. So the lower your list price is generally correlated to the higher offer price you end up with, the higher accepted offer price you end up with. Why? Because when a property is underpriced, more buyers come and look at it, you generally receive more offers, and buyers, once they become competitive, oftentimes pay a little bit more than they. So, and then I'd also want the conversation about staging, paint, things that we can do to try to obtain more offers and try to get a higher price. But I would ram home right at that point, though I think our range is 1.4 to 1.550, I would recommend pricing at the 1.4 or below to get to that higher number. Make sure you ram that home right away. Because the second your seller hears 1.550, I don't care how rational they are, what do you think they're listing? What do you think they want to list for, and what do you think they expect to get? Right?
1550.
150, yeah.
Always
You're
Yeah,
cutting
I-
off.
It
was buffering.
And here, I said that it doesn't matter how low I say the low end range is. They forget that I told them 1.4 to 1.550. All they remember is 1.550. Okay, so I would take it right then and there. But I don't even give them time to react. Can you hear me again?
It buffers off, but could you please explain as to why you would do it lower versus higher again, really quickly?
Oh yeah.
Please,
So
thank you.
if a property is listed at or under market value, more buyers are going to be interested in it. If more buyers are interested, you receive more offers.
Oh,
more
and they're
offers
going to be
means
paying
more-
over value. They're going to be giving.
Yeah, buyers
Got it.
are
Okay.
interested.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
The light bulb went on.
The lower a seller will let you price a property, the better. I mean, the absolute better. Like if this was my 5-time client that totally trusted me, I would say let's list it at 1.350.
Even for times like right now when everything's like
Right now, the market is super competitive for a single family with a yard.
yes. So right now would be ideal for them to lower.
It's always ideal to list at the lowest price the seller's comfortable at. Why? Because you will get more offers. Or in theory. I've had it not happen to me once or twice. Ouch. But majority of the time, I have had, 200 people in my open houses, 20 offers in hand. I get to take backup offers, dictate all of the terms. There's a lot of power for the seller when you receive a lot of offers that you wouldn't otherwise have. Given it's the same house. The only difference is a lot of interest. All right, now from the buyer perspective, right? When I'm writing an offer and I tell them, I think this house, I'm not going to give them as big of a range. Why? Because I'm giving them information based off of empirical data. I'm not giving them information about things yet to be seen, right? I know what happened in the past. I don't know what will happen in the future. So when I tell them, I think that this property is worth about 1.5, I'm generally giving a really tight range here. I think it's worth 1.45 to 1.55, right? But probably even tighter. I'm like, I think it clumps out at list price, the 1.5 all day long, lower. But I do 100% think it's worth its listed price. Does that make sense? And if we have multiple offers, what am I telling them? Well, we don't have to set the bar because we're probably going to get a counter offer, but we want to get that counter offer. So maybe you don't want to offer the full price, but I think we should offer close to it because someone's going to come in and offer what comps say it's worth.
Your last sentence cut off. The last half of your sentence cut off. It's buffering.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on.
It's okay.
I said, I tell my buyers it is worth this. So someone is going to offer this if we're in multiples, right? I don't think that we necessarily have to offer exactly what I think it's worth, but I think we need to offer close to it because I don't want to set the bar, have the highest price and counter offers, but I also don't want you to come in so low you don't get a counter offer.
Got it.
Thank you.
You just want that strong offer that will succeed without any hiccups.
And I think I can push it through. I'm telling my clients, you know, to offer, you know, maybe 1475, 148, see if we can get away with it. Or maybe let's just take it off the market before anyone else can get to it. Let's just offer them the 1.5 if you're comfortable with that number, and let's go. But if I know there are multiple offers, no way I'm telling my seller to, or sorry, no way I'm telling my buyer to set the bar on the highest price. I simply want to be in the pack.
Nice.
So the other problem with that is, and another reason we do CMA is there are times that, and I've had this happen, my buyer falls in love with the property. They are happy to pay list price for it, but it does not comp out. I had one where sellers wouldn't budge. They wanted 750. The house was only worth 700. I made my clients very aware of that. And I told them we might have appraisal issues. If the property doesn't appraise, you might have to come in with more money, because we all know that this property is not worth 750. I'm happy to write the offer for you if you're willing to pay it. I just want you to know that we might have issues, and whether or not we have issues, I've already had multiple discussions with the listing agent. The seller will not take below this number. My clients paid it. They had to come in with extra cash because it did not appraise as we had thought it would. But there are times a buyer won't care. And you need to be an honest and ethical agent. Just because your buyer says they're willing to offer list price does not mean that you should advise that they do. All right, this is not just a tool to get buyers up. This is a tool to protect your buyers as well. All right, I'm going to flip over to condos now. Anyone have a gigantic condo complex, something they're working on, or know of a listed property in a gigantic condo complex? I want it to be easy.
I don't know one, but I do know, I have an address that you can pull up that'll be easy for you. There's a bunch of, it's a big condo complex.
Great.
Address for you right now. It is 17991 Lost Canyon Road.
Oh, we're doing out there, huh?
Yeah, that's the one that I just can think of.
Okay.
I like how you knew where it was at already.
Canyon Country? No,
Yeah.
I mean, I knew because you said Lost Canyon.
Oh, okay.
That'll work. It generally is not a problem. Okay, so here. So let's say, hold on. Oh my gosh, can you guys hear my stomach rumble? I don't know, what was the most recent sale here? Let's see. Oh, what did I do? So my internet doesn't love us today. All right, so this looks like the most recent sale in the building. We're just going to go with unit 138. And 138 has, when you're condos,
Oh, you know what, Kristen, it's cutting out again. Sorry.
you have a building, you are definitely in square footage. Okay, I'm just gonna stop screen and share. Okay, sorry guys, I think with the screen share, it's just too much. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with a large condo complex where you have tons of comps, you're going to rely heavily on the statistics, heavily on the square footage and the bedroom bathroom count, heavily. Then outdoor space and views, okay? And this is all within the same building. When you have to look outside the building, it gets a lot more difficult. The nice thing about a large condo complex is they have the same amenities, right? HOA dues all include the same things. There may be different parking, there may be different floor plans, but there's going to be several, you know, like there might be 3 or 4 different floor plans, but there's going to be a ton of the one that you need comps for. So you're going to be super strict about bedroom, bathroom, and square footage. And then for a condo within a huge complex, it's all going to come down to how updated and nice is the interior. And you're going to have a much tighter range, generally speaking, on value in condo complexes. That being said, again, there's going to be the exception of really tall buildings with views. Views are going to exponentially change value even when the condition and specs are the same. So if I've got a huge high-rise building on the Wilshire corridor and I have 20 potential comps, but my unit that I'm trying to comp out is on the 22nd floor. I don't even know if they go that high, is on the 22nd floor. Am I going to look at comps on the 5th floor?
No.
But I'm probably, if I have comps available to me, like floor 12 and higher, I'm probably only going to look at floor 12 and higher. And if I have enough comps, I'm going to get closer to that top where they have that view. Okay, I'm going to really closely look at those MLS photos and the views. So that's one of the X factors in condo complexes. The other X factor is sometimes upper floor unit, top floor unit will have private rooftop deck. Any kind of private outdoor recreation space that another unit doesn't have or the other units don't have, it can also add exponential value. Now, when we are talking about a condo complex that's small or hasn't had many recent sales, you're going to have to do something very difficult. You're going to have to go outside of the condo complex. And I actually find these comps even harder than single family comps, because I'm going to have to try to find not only a similar unit, I'm going to have to try to find a building within reasonably similar condition with reasonably similar amenities and HOA dues. Tough, right?
Yeah.
Really tough. One of the
It cut off again.
other things I will do if I ask you. Can you hear me now? Yay, nay?
The last bit just cut off. Will you just repeat it, what you said?
Yeah, so I was going to say one of the escrows that I have now, my listing, I had this problem with. It's an 18-unit building. No one had bought or sold in the building for 5 years. So, and there was nothing, there were no complexes in that area that were similar, none. So not as accurate, but like my last ditch effort to comp it out, what I did was I went back to the sales from 5 years ago. Because the condition, I was lucky. The condition of the units that sold and the specs were the same as mine. What I did was I broke it down price per square foot, and then I adjusted percentage for inflation each year. And so I priced out price per square foot with the percentage of inflation for each year, or property value, not inflation, property value increase. I know, but I did, and I got it accurate. But you know what I did on top of that? You can do this before or after you take a listing, is I had a broker's price opinion, just to make sure I was right.
You know what?
A broker's price opinion. I asked my colleagues to please do me a favor and come on in and take a tour of my soon-to-be listing and let me know what they thought of its value. And that's affirmation, right? That's a lot of extra work, especially getting another agent to come out and help you with something that, you know, has nothing to do with them. Again, small community, you need to really, really foster your relationships with other agents. It's called brokering the broker. And it's something you really have to work on because you're going to need them, right? Spirit of cooperation. We are not adversaries, we are allies. Even though we compete for business, we also close that business together. Okay, so I had to ask, like, I had to ask like 200 agents to get 12 to show up to come and help me price it out. And they did. And there's like a little questionnaire form. You know, what do you think the strong points are? What do you think the weak points are? What do you think affects the value? And then ultimately, what do you think the actual value of this property is? And what would you recommend for the list price? Because remember, those are two different things: actual value and recommended list price. And it's helpful to you to show your sellers that not just you, but other agents are saying you should list lower. Okay. Sorry, I wanted to sort of take you through the MLS and do, you know, that more difficult comp searching, but I don't think my computer bandwidth or my internet bandwidth is going to allow for that today. And again, it's not an exact science, guys. When in doubt, ask other agents. Ask other agents. Call agents that have listings in the area, recent sales in the area. Call up your friend who does business there. Rely heavily on the agents in our office that have anything going on around there. Ask your mentor. Ask your mentor to ask other mentors and other agents. Ask me. Ask everyone. But also
Okay.
property address out to people who will steal your listings and know the difference between those two people.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
true.
Yeah.
That's real.
I don't know. I think you know who you can trust and can't, but maybe that's because I've been doing this a long time. But if you ever want my advice, I probably shouldn't give it. But those of you who have asked for my personal advice and opinions of others know I will give it to you unabashedly. So if you ever need a helping hand in that area, don't tattle on me, but I will tell you what I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions, guys? No?
Thank you, Kristen. This was great.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
I'm sorry
much.
like, with the connection and the MLS and stuff.
No,
When we get back to a normal classroom, I promise you, because I think CMA is probably the most important thing we do.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, I will give you like a super in-depth with copies of docs and lots of examples, but I need you in the classroom to really, really be able to
Understand.
Okay, much love.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you so much, Christian.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.